Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of BIS Talks. Friends, just have a look around you. I'm sure you'll find many electronic devices, including the one on which you're watching me. In fact, recent advances in electronics have revolutionized the way we live, the way we work, and the way we interact with the world. If we look at society by and large, electronics and information technologies have brought fundamental changes in our day-to-day life. Ranging from office gadgets and home appliances to occupational devices and industrial applications, electronics have transformed working ecosystem along all personal, social and professional verticals. After a little research, I discovered that all these electronics devices and equipment are able to perform satisfactorily, ensuring their safety, quality and interoperability with the help of prescribed standards. At the national level, Indian standards in the field of electronics and IT are formulated by Bureau of Indian Standards through Electronics and IT Division Council. Friends, to understand more about the work of the Electronics and IT Division Council of BIS, let's hear from the head Electronics and IT Department in BIS, Mrs. Reena Garg.
Electronics and IT Division Council of Bureau of Indian Standards has 34 technical committees under it, working in different areas of electronics and IT. And so far, we have developed more than 1700 standards in this sector. And while preparing all these sectors, a very democratic and transparent, well-down process is followed, which involves all relevant stakeholders in countries like manufacturers, consumers, R&D institutes, academia, government departments, ministries, regulators, laboratories, and even individual experts in that area. So before any standard is published, its draft is mandatorily hosted on BIS website, inviting feedbacks and comments, and anyone is free to provide comments on that standard. So just to give you an idea about what type of standards are published. So there are mainly 9 categories of standards. First category is standards for electronics and IT equipments and gadgets like televisions, laptops, mobile phones. And the second category is standards for electromagnetic compatibility and interference, EMI and EMC standards. And these standards help in avoiding interference amongst various equipments. The next category is the standards for Indian languages for use in IT applications. And then comes next standards on fiber optics, cables, waveguides and accessories. And the next category is smart card standards. And we also have developed standards for IT security, data privacy and biometrics. And in the next category, there are standards for software and IT services. So these are mainly used by IT industry, software programmers and BPOs. BIS has also published ICT standards for smart cities, and these are very important standards. And the next standard category is on emerging technology areas like artificial intelligence, IoT and blockchain. Apart from preparing national standards, BIS also participates in preparing international standards like ISO, IEC and JTC1 standards in all these categories with the help of its technical committees and large number of technical experts.
Friends, to know more about BIS standards in electronics and IT area, you can access the BIS portal www.manakonline.in. Go to the Standardization tab and you will find detailed information about the various technical committees, published standards and standards under development. It will be interesting to know that BIS has published more than 1700 standards in the field of electronics and IT. Let me take you to the fascinating world of these standards. Talking about the first category of these standards, which is on electronics, equipments and gadgets. Safety is one of the major factors that help the consumer in choosing a particular product. Look at this symbol. You will find it on most of the gadgets that you will use in your daily life. As per the Government of India order, manufacturers are authorized by BIS to put this safety mark on their products if the product conforms to the safety requirement mentioned in BIS standards. Let's hear from Mr. George Paul, CEO MATE, about this.
Standards are a precursor to innovation and growth of the electronics industry. It provides the momentum required by industry to bring out new products for the markets that it serves. The standards of IS 616 and 13252 published by BIS and specifically LITD has played a critical role in the growth of the electronics hardware design and manufacturing industry in the country.
Our expert Mr. Jitendra Kumar has more details about BIS compulsory registration scheme and set-top box standards.
BIS has developed safety standard IS 616 for audio video, similar electronic apparatus, and IS 13252 for safety of IT equipment. The general requirements of these standards are intended to provide protection to persons as well as to the surroundings of the apparatus and as a result of injury or damage due to hazards. General requirements include components, power interfaces, and marking instructions, protection from electric shock, and provisions for earthing and bonding, safety interlocks, electric insulations, clearance and creepage distances. Mechanical properties include stability and mechanical strength, protection from hazardous moving parts, impact test and drop test, excessive temperatures through temperature rise test. Radiation safety is also ensured through ionizing radiations and emission limits. Fire safety through resistance to fire and flammability test for enclosures and chemical hazards. All these safety principles have been considered while developing these standards. BIS has also developed indigenous standards on a variety of set-top boxes. IS 15377 is the digital set-top box for direct-to-home services, which we call DTH. IS 15954 for MPEG-4 DTS services. IS 16128 for MPEG-4 digital cable TV services. IS 16129 for digital terrestrial high definition and standard definition television. IS 16791 for IP television. These standards define the general and performance required for STBs like electrical specifications, input voltage and frequency, operating humidity and ambient temperature range, interfaces and connectors, channel tuners, RF characteristics of the DTS signal. Mandatory and optional features are also mentioned with respect to the satellite reception, decompression decoding, audio and video signals, conditional access and scrambling mechanism, operating live test, and a few environmental tests such as drop test, bump test, dry heat, damp heat and cold test also find place in the standards. These standards have been continuously revised to keep the changing technological scenarios in terms of compression from MPEG-2 to MPEG-4 and modulation techniques. Lately, we have started revising the standards to maintain the spirit of interoperability for the common consumer.
Security is imperative for any business. After all, how can you be profitable if you can't protect your assets? Video surveillance systems are more intelligent and effective than ever. Cameras now offer computer-like functions and features like motion sensors and automatic mobile notifications. Some systems can even contact law enforcement instantly without any human intervention. In the same category of electronics equipments and gadgets, let's hear about some important standards in this area from our technical expert, Ms. Alismita Khag, who is Member Secretary to the BIS Committee, LITD 26.
BIS has published a series of standards, the IS 16910 on video surveillance systems, which are popularly called VSS, comprising of the image capture devices, the interconnections and the image handling devices for use in security applications. This series of standards define a common framework for video surveillance transmission in order to achieve interoperability between different products. This series consists of 5 parts. The first part specifies the requirements such as the system integrity, protection of components, data integrity and data protection. This part groups the various systems into 4 different security grades based on the risk level of exposure of a VSS system. Part 2 specifies procedures for communication between network video clients and video transmitter devices. The third part specifies physical, electrical and software interface specifications of analog and digital video interface in VSS. Through video interfaces, video surveillance system can be put together by connecting various components such as image capturing devices, image handling devices, etc. Part 4 is application guidelines, which provides guidance on how to ensure that video surveillance systems meet their functional and performance requirements. This will be useful to those responsible for establishing operational requirements, writing specifications, selecting, installing, commissioning, using and maintaining a VSS. The last part specifies the image performance of camera equipment of a VSS. This standard prescribes performance tests for various parameters of video surveillance cameras like capture frame rate, maximum and minimum resolution, dynamic range, visible dynamic range, infrared illumination, operating view distance, image distortion and image flare. These standards also entails certain requirements of access control and data tampering prevention function to prevent any illegal access.
Here are some other important standards in this category. Let's now talk about category 2, which is EMI/EMC, that is electromagnetic interference and electromagnetic compatibility. Friends, all electronic devices used in our daily life emit electromagnetic radiations. These radiations may affect the working of other electronic devices, which may lead to malfunctioning and damage to devices. Hence, BIS formulated standards for electromagnetic compatibility of devices, which prescribe acceptable limits of interference caused by these devices. Let's hear about this in detail from Mr. Bhanu Putti.
Electromagnetic compatibility testing exists to ensure that your electronic or electrical device doesn't emit a large amount of electromagnetic interference, that your device continues to function as intended in the presence of several electromagnetic phenomena. In healthcare applications, incompatibility is not just a nuisance, it is potentially life-threatening. For example, a cardiac pacemaker may stop working under severe electromagnetic interference. In electronic equipment, electromagnetic interference may result in the failure of communication between two devices such as network equipment and computers, or even burn down the computers and electronic circuits. BIS has formed a series of standards IS 14700 on electromagnetic compatibility testing. This series has more than 35 different standards that give information to users and manufacturers about the test methods that are applicable to their products depending on where they are intended to be used. As EMC is an intangible phenomena, it is difficult for manufacturers to know if their products are electromagnetically compatible or not. The only real way to find out is to conduct the scientific EMC test, which is through this series of standards. All applicable tests reduce the chance of hazards caused during the electromagnetic interference. Additionally, the standard IS 15040 limits and methods of measurement for vehicles, boats and internal combustion engines has been published, which is designed to protect onboard receivers from disturbances produced by conducted and radiated emissions arising in a vehicle. The standard applies to any electronic or electrical component intended for use in vehicles, trailers and devices. Another important standard is IS 32 electromagnetic compatibility of multimedia equipment. This standard establishes requirements which provide an adequate level of protection to multimedia equipment, allowing radio services like FM or AM to operate as intended in the frequency range 9 kHz to 400 GHz without disturbing the performance of equipment.
Here is a list of some other important standards in this category. India is a multilingual country where after every 200 kilometers, you see a change in language. For a diverse population, it is all the more important that the fruits of technology reach all its people. This brings us to our third category of standards on Indian language technologies. Have you ever wondered how a mobile phone interact in so many Indian languages? Getting critical information in our own regional language is a point of delight and empowerment for people living specially in rural areas. Let's know more about this third category from Ms. Vinodini Kishore, who is the Member Secretary of BIS Committee LITD 13.
BIS has developed an Indian standard on Indian language support for mobile phone handsets, and that is IS 16333 Part 3. This standard facilitates the inputting of text in mobile phones in minimum 3 languages, that is Hindi, English and an Indian official language, where English and Hindi are mandatory and the third additional Indian official language is decided by the manufacturer. Similarly, it allows message readability in all 22 Indian official languages along with English. All the characters given in 22 languages to be verified, they are defined in IS 16350. IS 16350 is another Indian standard developed by BIS on enhanced script keyboard layouts. This standard specifies the character code sets for representing Indian languages and their scripts on digital medium such as web content, e-publication documents, content on mobile and other handheld devices. The standard covers code charts, characters and character names for 11 Indian scripts that are used to represent 22 Indian official languages. The code charts given in this standard are identical to ISO IC 10646 Universal Coded Character Set. Additionally, this standard gives enhanced versions of the script keyboard layouts for all 22 Indian official languages and mapping of the code points with the respective keyboard layouts.
Have a look at some more important standards under this category. The fourth category is fiber optics and cables. We all know about fiber optics and coaxial cables used for transmission of information. Optical fiber cables are the latest marvels of technologies that contain several thousands of signals at a time. These are capable of transmitting large amounts of data at very high speeds. Hence, optical fiber cables are widely used for internet, computer networking and in many industries. With a view to ensure safety and efficiency, BIS formulated 3 standards for optical fiber cables covering specifications and cable attributes for application in premises and public spaces. Let us hear from the Member Secretary of the Technical Committee, Mr. Priyanshu.
BIS has developed a set of standards IS 61196 Part 1 to 8 on coaxial communication cables. This series of standards specifies the general requirements and definitions for the design of cables. These also specify the various requirements for radio frequency coaxial cables for LAN, semi-flexible RF cables with PTFE, polytetrafluoroethylene dielectric, drop cables for use in cable TV networks. These standards also specify the various electrical, environmental and mechanical test methods. At a time when cable, modem and DSL providers are struggling to avail higher bandwidth out of their technologies, continual improvement in fiber optic equipment is constantly increasing the available bandwidth without having to change the fiber. That's why fiber optic networks are said to be future-proof. In this domain, BIS has published a standard IS 16939 on optical fiber cables for inside premises application. It defines the material requirements, mechanical requirements, design and construction requirements and method of tests for single mode optical fiber cables for fiber to home applications. It covers 2 different types of cable designs, indoor application and indoor-outdoor application to the premises. The optical fiber discussed in this standard is bend insensitive, which is suitable for inside premises application and typically to be used by multiple service operators. There is another very important standard IS 17046 on fiber optic cable for cable TV application. It lays down the material requirements, design and construction requirements, installation details and method of tests for fiber and outside fiber optic cable deployed aerially for applications like cable TV and broadband, and typically to be used by service providers like multiple service operator and local cable operators. This product is likely to replace coaxial cables which are being used now and has many advantages over coaxial cables, including cost effectiveness.
Here are some other important standards in this category. I'm sure most of you are using smart cards for financial interactions and identification purposes. This brings us to the fifth category, smart cards. Standardization of smart cards has many advantages. It supports secure and efficient transaction amongst its users. Professor Rajat Moona, Director IIT Bhilai, one of the prominent figures in this area, has more details on this. Let's hear him out.
BIS has developed various standards on identification cards, also known as smart cards, which are used for services like online transactions, shopping, and traveling purposes. BIS developed standard IS 14202 specifies the standard about the identification cards with contacts, whereas BIS standard IS 10536 specifies the contactless identification cards. These series of standards provide the standards and their interfaces in terms of requirements like the physical characteristics and the dimension of the cards, the power and signal structures, information exchange between cards and devices, mechanisms for addressing applications in the cards, security commands for personal verification, inter-industry commands for cryptographic operations, card and the file management. Further, the BIS has published another set of standards, IS 10373, which specifies the test for confirming the compliance based on the type of cards like vicinity cards, optical memory cards, and proximity cards. Additionally, the standard IS 16695, Smart Card Operating System Template Architecture, also popularly known as SCOSTA, has been published, which specifies the requirements of an operating system that may be put into an integrated circuit that provides a contact or contactless interface or a combination of the two interfaces. This standard also provides details on the operating system that shall be interoperable and provides interface for personalization and initialization. The standard covers the application protocol data unit, security architecture, password and key repository, file and security related commands. This standard has been in use in variety of Indian applications such as driving license, vehicle registration card, below poverty line identification card, seafarer's ID, and variety of other identification applications.
Here are some other important standards in this category. Moving on to our sixth category of standards, data privacy and information security. Friends, our data privacy is a growing concern due to many breaches observed in the personal data security. All of us secure our home, society, country, and in the similar fashion there is need of security and privacy of our information as well. With the advent of ICT, the importance of security and privacy has increased. Responding to this need, BIS formulated standards which provides guidance on information security and data privacy. Let's know more details from our expert, Mr. Kshitij Batla, the Member Secretary of BIS Committee, LITD 17.
BIS has published ISO IEC 27000 series of standards that are related to information security management system. For security of information, these standards provides various requirements like management shall have information security policy, there shall be set of objectives, the personnel of organization should be aware of policy objectives, the performance shall be regularly reviewed through internal audits, etc. One major aspect and requirement of ISMS is to have plan for identification of the risk involved and also the treatment of that identified risks. Apart from the requirements which I just mentioned, there are also standards control, that is 114 controls to achieve different objectives. For example, there should be control to classify the information based on their severity or sensitivity level. There should be control for the uses of cryptography techniques and to maintain log of all events. BIS has formulated two important standards as IS 17428 series, which provides various requirements and guidelines for data privacy insurance. Some of the requirements are like development of privacy policy and privacy requirements, identifying the need for collection of data, provision of privacy notice, limitation on data uses, terminology for privacy assessment, regular testing for improvement, etc. These are some of the requirements. One example of guideline that I would like to inform is related to data collection limitation. Let's suppose I am registering for any service and I have completed some stages of registration. Before completing the registration, I decided to not continue with registration. In such cases, information provided should not be stored at all. Information should be stored only if I would have completed the registration process. Another important series of standards that are related to biometric intention formats, IS/ISO/IEC 1979 font series, that is on biometric intention formats, which have formats for finger minutia data, face image data, iris image data, finger image data, and various other formats also. Formats defined in this series of standards are in the form of data structure and data types. Basic purpose of this standard is interoperability, so that all biometric devices capture data in the same format irrespective of the make of the device. For example, standard defines format for eye color. For black eye device, shall represent this as 01 in hexadecimal. Blue color shall be represented as 02 in hexadecimal and brown as 03 in hexadecimal. In the similar way, the interoperability formats have been defined for different biometric data interchange formats.
Here is a list of some other important standards in this category. Next category is IT and software. Friends, India is a global giant in IT sector with its footprints across the world. IT industry is currently providing software development services and IT-enabled services to its clients in domestic and overseas market. With nearly 8% contribution to national GDP, IT industry has emerged as a key player of the Indian economy. Friends, BIS has developed Indian standards to facilitate the industry and ensure quality and efficiency for which India is well known globally. Mr. Ashish Tiwari, who is the Member Secretary of BIS Technical Committee, has more details about this.
BIS has been leading standardization work in information technology, not only in India but also at international level. BIS has published a series of standards for IT service management, IS 20000 series, which is the first Indian standard for service management. This standard specifies requirements for establishing, implementing, maintaining and continually improving a service management system. This leads to continual improvement in an organization at a reasonable cost and time investment. Further, BIS has also published a series of standards for IT-enabled services and the BPO sector, IS 30105 in 2016. These standards specifies the life cycle process requirements involved in the ITS BPO industry, right from building strategies, planning, developing solutions, delivering services, and through transitioning out the services. These standards were developed at international level under the leadership of India with participation of more than 80 experts from 30 countries. Another set of standards was published for defining software lifecycle processes, IS 16124. This standard divides software lifecycle processes into 4 main process groups: agreement, organizational project enabling, technical management, and technical processes. Under each of those 4 process groups are a variety of subcategories, including the primary activities of acquisition, configuration, and operation. IS 16419 published by BIS addresses both the process and technology for managing software assets and related IT assets. These sets of software asset management standard helps organizations of all sizes by providing information and assistance to assist at the risk and cost minimization of item assets. Further, in order to measure the quality of software, BIS published an Indian standard IS 16443 on software quality models. This standard provides various models on software quality, which helps in identifying software and system requirements and validating the comprehensiveness of all given requirements. Compliance to these standards has attributed efficiency, speed and client satisfaction to process in IT companies.
Here are some other important standards in this category. Smart cities, that is the 8th category we are going to talk about. Friends, standards are also playing a critical role in the development of smart cities across India. Cities are complex entities having diverse stakeholders, diverse geographical entities, large number of services and business processes, and innumerable ICT and digital technologies. While it is almost impossible to engineer a smart city from scratch, it will be possible to adopt the right architectural frameworks and standards along with appropriate practices and policies to nudge the evolution towards smart cities. A comprehensive set of ICT standards being developed to support the digital infrastructure in smart cities. These standards accrue many benefits in terms of seamless data and information exchange across various domains, applications and city services. Let us hear from the expert Mr. Manikanthan himself.
LITD 28 Smart Infrastructure Sectional Committee of BIS has published a number of standards for ensuring a harmonized, secure and sustainable digital infrastructure across the smart cities that will facilitate the implementation of various smart city projects in an efficient, cost-effective and secure manner. The series of standards would be applicable across any geographical region that can encompass smart village to smart cities to the entire nation. One of the important standards recently published is IS 18000 Unified Digital Infrastructure ICT Reference Architecture. This standard defines the reference architecture and models for information and communication technologies needed to realize a unified digital infrastructure in smart cities without mandating any specific components. The ICT reference architecture defined in this standard comprises the functional reference model, technology reference model and information reference models. The description of the ICT reference architecture in this standard starts with capturing the stakeholder expectations. These stakeholder expectations naturally lead to a set of functionalities that are needed to meet the expectations, and these functionalities constitute the functional reference model. The technology reference models and information reference models that are needed to realize the functionalities are derived from the functional reference model itself. Another standard is IS 18003 Unified Data Exchange Part 1 Architecture. This standard describes the architecture for the data exchange, interfaces of data exchange components, and the use cases that are enabled in the ecosystem. It also describes the responsibilities of various stakeholders, their interaction with other stakeholders in the system, and the consequences of those interactions. This standard also describes a high-level architecture of the three main components of the data exchange services, that are catalog service, authorization service, and resource access service. Security and privacy are incorporated by design in this architecture. This architecture should simplify the life of the data custodians as well as the application developers. The data exchange architecture will enable a whole new ecosystem of application developers to provide new data-driven solutions and services. Another standard is IS 18010 Part 1 Unified Digital Infrastructure Unified Last Mile Communication Protocol Stack Reference Architecture. This standard defines the Unified Last Mile Communication Protocol Stack Reference Architecture for communication devices deployed in the digital infrastructure. The reference architecture describes how different communication technologies can be harmonized to coexist at lower layers of communication stack while keeping unified upper layers running over different communication technologies. Part 5, Section 1 of this standard describes the physical and MAC layer specification based on IEEE 802.15.4 using sub-gigahertz spectrum 865 to 867 MHz. Adoption of this standard will ensure device-level interoperability between different vendors using IEEE 802.15.4 in the range 865 to 867 MHz spectrum.
Here is a list of some other important standards in this category. Friends, as a national standard body, BIS represents India on international standards organizations such as ISO and IEC. BIS participates in international standardization process as participating and observer member in several committees. So far, more than 250 Indian experts have been nominated and working with these committees with significant contributions. I am proud to share that Indian leadership is contributing and influencing in frontline sectors such as software and systems engineering, blockchain and smart cities. Let us hear from our expert Dr. Sandeep Oberoi, who is the chair of ISO Technical Committee on Software and Systems Engineering.
In the software and systems engineering area, the Indian industry is recognized to have a leadership position and is influential, and most large organizations in the world in some way or another do take services from this industry. So in this very important area, the Bureau of Indian Standards is able to play a very effective role in projecting the needs of the Indian software industry and in fact the global software industry. In tomorrow's world, where we envisage a lot of autonomous systems like driverless cars and other such systems, we may find that it is important that a machine should be able to understand, interpret and comply with a given standard. The ISO and IEC are already thinking about machine interpretable standards, and the Bureau of Indian Standards is playing an important role in this arena as well. And through the BIS, we are participating in some important strategic task forces, and one of the key deliverables there is to define the form and the content of standards that could be machine readable.
Friends, to keep pace with the technology progression in electronics and IT sector, BIS is working with a sound future vision. BIS has constituted new committees on Internet of Things, IoT, blockchain and distributed ledger technologies, artificial intelligence, smart manufacturing and wearable devices to cater the needs of standards in these emerging areas. Let's hear about the future vision of standards on emerging technologies from Mrs. Reena Garg.
It is always a challenge to prepare standards for emerging technology areas, and BIS has already taken up this initiative to develop standards in these areas like IoT, blockchain and artificial intelligence. Standards on Internet of Things will enable efficient transfer of data and interaction between sensor devices, gateways, servers and user applications. And BIS is working on standards like IoT reference architecture, IoT use cases, IoT ecosystem security, sensor network management and so on. Now next, standards on artificial intelligence are mainly to develop best practices to enhance and improve efficiency in the system so that better decisions can be taken up for implementation. On artificial intelligence, BIS is working on standards like levels of AI, ethics of AI, then big data architecture and analytics and robustness of neural networks. So BIS committee on blockchain is working on standards to enhance transparency, increase efficiency, better security and improve traceability. So these standards on blockchain include blockchain reference architecture, security and privacy, smart contracts, blockchain governance, use cases and so on. So BIS committee experts are very actively participating and at international level as well to come up with the standards in all these frontline areas. Now next, when the standards are published, there is a need to review those standards at regular intervals so that they can keep pace with the technology advancement. So BIS has a well developed structure and well developed mechanism to review these standards, and all the stakeholders, anyone can give their comments on what should be added, what should be deleted to modify the standards so that we get useful, meaningful standards for implementation for the benefit of all the stakeholders.
The BIS e-governance portal, Manak Online, provides a comprehensive view of its activities, including on standardization. This portal serves BIS technical committee members and also other users of Indian standards. Filters to view the aspect-wise Indian standards classified based on test methods, product specifications, codes of practices, etc. is also available. The list of Indian standards relevant to various ministries and departments can also be accessed online. Details of published Indian standards and draft standards open for public commenting are also available. Proposals can also be submitted through the portal to make new Indian standards. Details about the technical committees, members and their affiliations through Manak Online are just one click away.
Friends, BIS is gradually shifting its activities on virtual platforms to ensure effective participation of stakeholders. BIS has recently migrated its activities into an online collaboration tool. Please visit our portal through our website www.manakonline.in. Friends, standardization in electronics and information technology sector has successfully developed a culture that promotes quality consciousness in the country. High quality and safety standards of the devices manufactured in the country have built a brand image of India in the global markets. Standards are encouraging manufacturing and service organizations to strive for excellence. Indian standards are contributing significantly in the Make in India and Digital India missions and also towards building a new and self-reliant India. BIS welcomes experts from various areas to contribute and help in developing better standards. Investing in standards is the need of the hour to make a better future. Let's celebrate Indian standards in our lives.